Hi everybody. So today we're going to make our holiday miniatures. So inside your holiday box, you will have all these different kinds of clay. So our first step here is to go ahead and open up each package. And what you're going to do with each color is you'll open it up and you just want to massage it over and over until it gets soft and forms into a ball. The first thing I want to make today on this video is a Santa Claus. So the colors you will need are beige, black, red, and white. So once you have all these colors pretty soft that you can mold them easily, we can start. First, we will need to make the body of our Santa. And the Santa is going to be wearing his red jacket. So you'll want a red ball about the size of the end of your finger, not too big. And you'll want to roll it. A good way to roll it is either in your hand, like that, or on a flat surface. And you just roll it in a circle, and it will become a ball. So we need to make his body. So what we'll do here is we'll have our ball, and all we can do is press with our thumb and kind of make it into a flat circle or like a plate. The harder you press, the wider it will get and the bigger your Santa will be. You want it about that thick. So it's thicker than a quarter. So that will be the belly of our Santa. Again, if you want to make him bigger, you can either add more clay or press it harder and it will grow bigger. Okay, so the next thing we want to do are his little boots. So his boots will be black. What I will do here is I will take 2 pieces of black. They're pretty small, about the size of one of my fingernails, and I will roll these into 2 little balls. One, and they don't have to be perfect because we will flatten them anyway. So we have 2 little circles there. Again, we'll press them to make them flat. And in order to make them look like boots, we'll just pinch one side to make it into kind of like a teardrop shape. All I had to do is pinch gently one side. And I'll do the same to the other one. It's just a flat circle, and I'll pinch one side to make it into a nice tear. So the boots will go right underneath the Santa, just like that. They'll stick right on. And I can even press the red down a little to make it kind of come over the shoes. So there are our Santa shoes. Next, let's go ahead and make the top of Santa's hat. So again, we're gonna make a little stick like this, and we don't want it that big. I accidentally grabbed too much. So I'm gonna cut it pretty short, and this will be the top of Santa's hat. So what you can do is you can kind of measure. If I put mine on top of Santa's head, it's a little bit too big still. It hangs off the sides. I don't want it to hang off. So what I can do is stick it on there, use my tool to cut off the edges very gently. Okay, now I have a perfect shape that I want. Okay, and I can tuck in the sides with my tool, and now I have the top of Santa's hat. Okay, so next I think it will be fun to make his little mustache. So go ahead and take some white, some more white, not very much, and we'll make it into a ball. This one's pretty small, smaller than my fingernails, and I want to break it into 2. These need to be really tiny. the cool thing about clay is if you mess up, you can just take it right off. Like I could take this right off if I wanted to, and I could redo it. So don't be afraid to redo parts that you don't think look that good. You can always redo it. So I have this tiny, tiny, tiny little ball. And remember how we pinched one side of these to make the shoes? You're gonna do the same. So first, I will press it just a bit so it's not a ball. And then I will pinch one side of it. Oops. Okay. So I've pinched one side. And now I have one side of Santa's little mustache. So I can put that right here on his face. Okay, now I'll do the other side, flatten it out, and pinch one side. Okay, and I can put it right next to his other part. So notice I made one too big and one too small. I kind of like how the big one looks. So I'm gonna take this one off, add some more, and you can do this too. If any parts look uneven or weirdly shaped, you can always take it off and redo it. Okay, so I'll pinch it just like I said, and it looks a bit better, a little bit closer to the other side. Okay, so I'll put it right on his face, and now I have his little mustache. So we'll take our beige, and we'll get a smaller bit, okay, about the size of the end of your thumb, and we'll make it into a ball. Just like we have been, just roll it in circles. And you will just press it with your thumb into a circle. So you want this circle smaller than your red circle because no one's head is bigger than their body. So the head will need to be much smaller than Santa's body. So now that we have his head, we'll need to work on parts of his face. So he does have a beard and a little mustache and a hat. So next what we'll do is we'll take some white and what we'll do here, instead of making it into a ball, we can make it into a tube or a stick. So all you'll do here, if you had a ball like this, instead of going in circles to make it round, you'll just go back and forth, and you keep pressing down, not too hard, and you'll notice it starts to form a little bit of a stick. So you'll just keep rolling it around until you get it how wide you want it to be. Okay. So now we can make Santa's little beard. So we have our little half circle there, and I'll press it on his chin. Okay, so beards aren't this shape. How we can make it look more like a beard is in the center where the beard is long. We can press it down with our finger a little bit more to make it look like his beard is long. Okay, and you can use your little tools that are in your kit to clean it up a little bit if you want. Another tip when using clay is if you are going to use a light color after using a dark color like black, I made this mistake, you can tell, is if you switch from black to white, you always want to wash your hands. Because if you can see, I already have some black inside of my white because my hands are dirty and the colors from the clay stick really well to your hands. So if you're changing from black to white, make sure you wash your hands or wipe them off really good with a wet paper towel. Next, let's go ahead and make the top of Santa's hat. So again, we're gonna make a little stick like this, and we don't want it that big. I accidentally grabbed too much. So I'm gonna cut it pretty short, and this will be the top of Santa's hat. So what you can do is you can kind of measure. If I put mine on top of Santa's head, it's a little bit too big still. It hangs off the sides. I don't want it to hang off. So what I can do is stick it on there, use my tool to cut off the edges very gently. Okay, now I have a perfect shape that I want. Okay, and I can tuck in the sides with my tool, and now I have the top of Santa's hat. Okay, so next I think it will be fun to make his little mustache. So go ahead and take some white, some more white, not very much, and we'll make it into a ball. This one's pretty small, smaller than my fingernails, and I want to break it into two. These need to be really tiny. The cool thing about clay is if you mess up, you can just take it right off. Like I could take this right off if I wanted to, and I could redo it. So don't be afraid to redo parts that you don't think look that good. You can always redo it. So I have this tiny, tiny, tiny little ball. And remember how we pinched one side of these to make the shoes? You're gonna do the same. So first, I will press it just a bit so it's not a ball. And then I will pinch one side of it. Oops. Okay. So I've pinched one side. And now I have one side of Santa's little mustache. So I can put that right here on his face. Okay, now I'll do the other side, flatten it out, and pinch one side. Okay, and I can put it right next to his other part. So notice I made one too big and one too small. I kind of like how the big one looks. So I'm gonna take this one off, add some more. And you can do this too. If any parts look uneven or weirdly shaped, you can always take it off and redo it. Okay, so I'll pinch it just like I said, and it looks a bit better, a little bit closer to the other side. Okay, so I'll put it right on his face, and now I have his little mustache. We're already using the white. So grab some more white. We're gonna make a button stripe down the center and kind of a line in white across to make his pants and his shirt stand out as two separate pieces of clothing. So we'll take a piece and we'll roll it out just like before. And I want it to be a stripe, not a round tube thing. So I have my tube here and I'll just press gently to make it all the same shape into kind of a stripe. Okay, so now what I want to do is put it on my Santa, starting at his beard, and notice it's much too long. So what I'll do is I'll take my tool with the sharp edge. It's not really sharp, it just looks sharp. And I'll cut it about halfway up his belly. Okay, now I have this stripe. Okay, it looks silly now, but we're gonna put one this way too. So I want you to take the other part if you don't have any left, make another tube, press it out like that, and we will put it right below his stripe. This is like his belt, kind of. Okay, and again, it's too long on the sides. You can tuck it, just pinch it like that, but if it's really long, you're gonna wanna cut off the edges. But mine's not too long, so I'm just gonna press the edges in. And we have Santa's jacket. We need to make his little sleeves and the top of his hat. So let's move on to red. Let's start with his sleeves because they're a little bit easier. We'll just take really tiny pieces. Gonna make 2 of them, 1 for each sleeve. Okay, pretty small. And we'll roll them into a ball just like before. So make a circle motion. And with both actually, yep. Okay, we'll make 2 circles. And we will press just like before. And we have 2 sleeves. So if you put them next to your Santa, they kind of look silly right now. And that's okay because we're going to use our tools to make them look a little bit less silly. So we want a sleeve to kind of be like a triangle, right? So what I'll do is I'll just hold my finger at the bottom here to keep it stable so it doesn't move. And near the top, I'll use my tool to press it into his arm. Messed up his mustache there. So now you can see it's kind of in a triangle shape up against his body. I'll do the same for the other one. So I'll hold my finger there and I'll press it in towards his head. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is the tough part. Okay. So I have 2 sleeves now. And let's make the top of his hat. So I'll grab some more red, a little bit more than his sleeves. And this one I do want to roll into a tube shape, kind of a fat and short tube, like this. And I'll measure it. You kind of want it to hang off one side because Santa hats are kind of floppy. So all I did was lay that tube down up there, and I want it to hang off this side. You can also hang it off this side. Okay? And at the end of this is where the little white ball is gonna go. So we're officially done with red. You don't need that anymore. Let's finish up with some white. Remember to rinse off your hands right now or wipe them off with a paper towel so they don't get, you don't get the red into the white. Okay, so we will make the little ends of the sleeves here. So we'll just get a little teeny bit of white. And we'll roll them into little balls. It's really hard to do this. Sometimes I even do the little ones with my fingers. I just make a circle. Okay, there's one. And with the other, you kind of pinch it and you move your fingers in a circle. Okay, so I have 2 of those. Let's roll them out gently into a tube. Okay, and these are gonna go on the ends of the sleeves, like little fuzzy sleeve caps. Okay, that one's a bit too long, but it's okay, I can cut it right off with your tool. Okay, there's one. Let's try the other. Okay, and I'll stick it right on the end of that sleeve. There we go. You can kind of press it a little bit into it so it sticks a little better. Okay. All right, let's make the little fuzzy ball on the end of Santa's hat. So again, a little bit of white. Let's roll it in a circle. and we'll stick it right on the end there. There we go. There's Santa's hat. Okay, so we have a couple more things left to do. We have Santa's eyeballs, his little baby hands, and we'll make 2 little buttons. So let's work with our beige to make his hands, because we have to match his face. His face is beige, so I'll make his hands. So we need 2 balls about the same size each. We'll roll them in a circle, and I'm just gonna flatten them just a little bit. I'm not gonna really add too much detail to his hands. I don't find it to be that important. And I'll just stick them on the end of his sleeves here. Okay, so there's his little hands. So his hands are kind of sticking out pretty far. What you can do is you can scoot them in to kind of be more towards his side if you want. Okay. Now let's move on to the last details, which we have the eyes and the buttons. So these are all gonna be really tiny, the smallest pieces we've made yet of black. It's like a piece of rice, it's tiny. We'll roll it up. It's the smallest little ball right here, and we'll just press it gently. Okay, these are kind of hard to get off the desk. They stick really good. So sometimes it's easier to press them in your fingers. So once I press it, it kind of comes out like that. So I want this to be a button on his jacket. There's one. You can reshape it if you don't like it, or you can take it off if you don't like it. Let's make one more. I'm gonna try and make this one a little bit smaller. Tiny little piece. Pinch it in your fingers just a little, and you can stick it right on your Santa. Okay, so there are his buttons, and we'll do the same exact thing for his eyes. But instead of squishing the circles, you don't have to, you can make him have perfectly round eyes. So I made this little tiny ball, and I'll stick it right above his mustache. So it's kind of hard to get my fingers in there, but you can move it around with your little tools. And I'll make one more. Try and make it the same size. It's kind of hard sometimes. And stick it right in there. Okay. And there I have my Santa. So for this video, we're going to be making a cute little Christmas tree out of clay. So these are the colors you will need. You will need green for the tree, brown for the stump, yellow for the star, and black for the string lights. For the actual Christmas lights, you can choose any colors you want. So in your kit you have red, orange, pink. You can even blend colors to make purple or any color you want if you have extra clay, but those are just extra for the lights. Let's first start with our green. So we have a big chunk of our green, and I've molded it and made it really soft, so I barely pinch and it's gonna mold pretty easy. So first we want to make a triangle shape because that's the shape of a Christmas tree. So I have quite a bit here. I don't think I want to use this much, so I'll take some off. And what I'm gonna do is roll it into a circle. So just move your hand in a circle shape, and I start to get a ball. You don't have to press too hard on this part to make it work. Okay, so now I have my ball. And what I'll do is use my fingers, I can use one or two, and I'm gonna press it to make it pretty flat. Okay, I don't want it too thin, I don't want it thin as paper. but it's kind of thick. That's perfect. Okay, so I have a circle, but I want it into a triangle. And I want it into a soft triangle. For me, that means I want it into a triangle, but not super pointy corners. So kind of rounded corners. So the best way to make a triangle is to sort of pinch one side. So what you can do is pinch up and down. See, it's starting to get into a triangle shape. So I'll just pinch one side, keep pinching gently, gently. I can flatten out these edges a bit. So I almost have a triangle here. It's kind of a teardrop shape right now. I'll keep going till I get a point, and I have a teardrop. Now I want this edge to also be straight, like a triangle. So I can just push it up, or I can press it out to make this corner a little bit more like a triangle. So our next step here will be to make our little stump. So I'll grab my brown and I'll tear off a piece, not too much, about that size. Size of a blueberry, and I'll roll it into a circle. And I'll just use my finger to press. So I sort of want this into a square-ish shape. Right now it's a circle. So what I can do is press on one side, or two of the opposite sides. I can turn it and I can press again on the other sides. So now it's almost in a square shape. I'll press it there. Let's go ahead and make some of our string lights. So this will involve black, and this is probably the toughest part of the project. So don't be afraid to try until you get it right. So we'll get a pretty small piece, smaller than my thumbnail, and we'll make it into a ball. Okay, and what we want to do is make this into really thin string-like thing, and it's going to zigzag across our tree. So how we do that is we're going to roll it out with our fingers, like back and forth, and it starts to form this tube. So keep going until it gets really, really skinny. Another tip is you notice it's getting skinny over here and it's pretty wide. So I don't want to keep rolling over here. I want to roll it over here until it's even. It's all the same on all sides. So sometimes using all of your fingers is good to make sure it's even, or you can always lift up and check. You can see it's getting pretty skinny there, so I want to move over here, move around until it's the same all around. This is a challenge, so don't feel bad if you don't get it the first time. You can always roll it into a ball and roll it back out again if you can't get it. Okay, so I have it pretty skinny here. And what I'll do is I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to press it down, and then I'm going to bring it around like you're just stringing lights on your tree. Okay. And I'll zigzag, and I'll zigzag back. And I have a little bit more, so I'll do it one more time. Okay. There we go. Now to make it look a little bit more realistic, I have all these parts sticking off the side. So what I can do is I can cut it off, or I can just press it in if I want to do that. I prefer cutting it because I think it looks more clean and like I'm a pro. I'll do one over here too. Cut off the edge. Okay, So now I have pretty lights. Well, no lights yet, just string. So let's make our star here. I have some yellow, I don't need that much. I just need a little tiny bit. You can make your star as big as you want, but I'm gonna make it kind of small to make it look realistic. And I'll roll it into a ball. Okay, into a little ball here. And I'm just gonna squish it with my fingers, pinching it. I also was doing it like this, where I just press with my finger and it gets flattened. You can also pinch. Okay, so I'll have this circle. I'll kind of put it up here. That looks like a pretty good size. Do some pinching. So this part is tough. If you have a parent or an adult around to help you, if not, you can totally skip this step. So first, let's line up our fingers like this. And what we're gonna do first is press our thumbs in, kind of pinching a star. All right, so our next and last step is to make little lights on our tree. So I just kind of want to keep mine simple. I'm gonna make red and white lights, but you can use any colors you have. I know everybody has some pink, everybody's got some orange. If you've got any other colors, we have yellow. You can make your lights any color. I'm gonna show you how to make the shape of it, and then you can keep making as many lights as you want. So I'll start with red here, and I want my lights to be so tiny. It's even smaller than a piece of rice. So I'll roll it into a ball. Okay, it's so small. And if I want to get fancy, I can press it with my fingers a little to make it into a ball and pinch one side to make it into sort of a light bulb shape, like that. Then I'll just choose where I want it on my strings. Maybe I want it up here. Okay, and if I want to move it around, it's really easy to do that with a tool. And you can stick it, press it down gently, and there's one of my lights. I'll show you how to make a couple more, and then feel free to pause the video and keep making your lights. So there I have a little piece of white. Don't need that much. I'll make it into a ball, and I'll make it fancy. I'll squish it down and pinch one side into a teardrop shape like that. And I will stick it right next to the red. And they're kind of hard to get on. Oops, I want it this way. And I'll stick it right next to its friend, the red light. Okay, so there are two lights. So continue on going, putting them underneath each string all the way to the bottom. Hi everybody, for this video we will make a little penguin with a bow tie. So for this section you will need a ball of white, black, red for the bow tie, and orange for his beak and his feet. So our first step here will be to make our penguin's body. So we'll need some black. What we'll do here is get a pretty big piece, about this big, and I'll roll it into a ball. Now our penguin's body is kind of like an oval or an egg. So I have my ball here, and I'll use my fingers to press it down into my penguin shape. So it's gonna be a circle right now, and that's okay. Make sure you flatten it out, not too thin. You don't want it as thin as paper, but not too thick that it's gonna be too small. So I have a pretty good size. Here's my fingers for scale. It's pretty big. And I want to peel it off the table here. and show you my shape. So I want to make it into more of an oval shape. So how I'll do that is just push in the sides a little bit. And you get kind of this ovally shape. Okay? So there's my body of my penguin. Next, let's make the little arms for our penguin. Those are also going to be in black. So get 2 little pieces about equal size. Okay, I have 2 pieces of sort of equal size. I can fix it later if they're not. And I will roll them into circles. Okay, so there are my 2 circles. I'm going to roll them out into a tube, sort of. Pretty thick, so I'm not going to press hard at all. And notice they're just like little sticks, like that. Okay, so I want to do this. I want to pinch one side of this little tube, because this is the part that's going to be on my penguin. So I pinched one side of his arm, so it will stick right on. And the other side is going to be pinched just slightly, so it's like a fin. So I will just press this to the side of my little penguin, and now he has one of his arms. Now I'll do the same to the other. I'll pinch one side and pinch the other so it flattens. So I have a pointy side and a flat side, and I'll stick it to the side of my penguin. So now I have 2 little penguin arms. So make sure to wash your hands after you use black. The black sticks to your skin and it will make the white turn gray and icky looking. So after you wash your hands, let's take the white and we're gonna make a ball a bit smaller than the black one we just made. So I'll make it into a ball. And I can squish it in my fingers. I don't have to squish it on the table. If you want to practice squishing it in your hand, like if you're making cookies, you roll the dough out. Basically the same thing. You're just pinching all around to make it turn into a disc. And you want it to cover most of your penguin. So you can set it down to measure, but I still have a lot of black up here. So I want to keep squishing to make it more and more flat. So I'll keep squishing. I'm going to measure it again. And I'm getting pretty close. I want a little bit more up there. Okay, that looks like it's pretty good. So this time, instead of just gently setting it, I'll press it down a little so it sticks onto my penguin. All right, so in the top of the penguin, there's a little bit of a V shape, and I'll draw it on my penguin. A little bit of a V shape where his fur is actually black, so I'll need to shape that. So I can either press it in, making a V shape, very gently. I'll make a V. You can draw it first, trace it first, so you get it right. And there I have a V shape. So it needs some cleaning up for sure. I can just use the tips of my fingers and drag my finger and it will smooth it out. Okay, I can need to fix it up a little bit more, but that's doable with this sharp tool, pointy tool. Okay, so I have my V in the top of my penguin. All right, so let's make our little penguin's eyeballs. That will be easy. So let's take our black, and we want our eyeballs to be really small. So I don't even need this much, that's quite a bit. I want less than that. I'll break this one in half and I'll roll them in my fingers in a circle to make a little ball. Okay, here's another one. I want to make sure they're kind of the same size or else he'll look a little bit silly. So those two are pretty good. Now, if you're really wanting to learn good techniques about clay, you can use this tool with a little ball. If you want to try it with me, go ahead and grab it. And we'll make our marks of where we want our eyeballs to be. These are kind of like the eye sockets of our penguin. So I just gently press two little kind of bowl shapes, and I'll take my eyeballs, these little circles, and put them right inside. So there are the eyes of my little guy. All right, so we just have the beak, feet, and the bow tie left. So let's go ahead and get our orange warmed up and ready to go. And let's go ahead and break it into 3 parts. 2 medium-sized pieces for our feet, and 1 small one for our beak. Okay, so let's start with the beak. Let's roll this into a ball. And this is going to be sort of 3D triangle. So we have a ball here. And what I want to do is pinch the sides so it goes into a teardrop. I'm just doing my pointer fingers, pressing them towards each other. And I'll turn it and press again. And I'll keep turning it until it's a 3D triangle. Okay, and then I will press it right between my penguin's eyeballs. Right there. So mine is still kind of wide. I'm going to size down a bit, take some clay off. And I'll repeat this process to make it perfect. Pinching. Okay, then I'll place it right between. There's my beak of my penguin. Next, let's work on the feet of our penguin. I'll roll it into a ball. And I want to make these feet kind of ovally. So I'll roll it with my finger back and forth just a little bit. So it's about that shape. And I'll do the same with the other one. You can put them right next to each other and make sure they're about the same size. And I'll stick them right on the bottom of this guy. All right, so I want to make it look like he has some toes, so I'll use my tool with the sharp-ish edge, and I'll make 2 lines to make it look like he has some toes here. So you don't have to press, you can actually make sort of like dots to make his toes. Just making 2 lines. I'm using my other finger to keep it stable so it doesn't fall off. So there are his little toes. Okay, let's finish up here and make his little bow tie. And then as a bonus, I'll show you guys how to make his little Santa hat. But first, let's work on his bow tie. So the middle of the bow tie is just a tiny little ball. So we'll take a little itty bitty piece, roll it into a circle with our fingers, and we'll find where we want his bow tie to be. So I want it right under his nose. I'm gonna stick it right there. And we'll make the sides of the bow tie now. So go ahead and grab 2 more pieces of red. I'll split this into 2 even parts. And I'll roll them into balls. Okay, let's start with one side. We're gonna pinch it into a flat disc sort of shape first. About that big. And we'll do the same thing, teardrop shape, where we'll pinch one side. So it's kind of a tear shape. And as we're holding the pinched side, we'll use our other finger to press to make it kind of a square edge instead of a tear shape. Okay, so now instead of a tear shape, we have one straight edge. So now this pointy part will be towards the middle of the bow, just like that. And let's do the same for the other side. So we have a ball, we'll flatten it out, pinch one side, and press our finger with the other on the other side. So we have a little triangle. I'll stick this one right next to that. And now I have his little bow tie. All right, I will show you guys how to make his little hat up here. So all you'll need is red and white. So let's start with the white. I need a fair amount. I'll roll it into a ball. Roll it into a stick shaped. Not very long. There's my finger for scale. Pretty short. And I'll stick it right on the side of his head. I kind of want it off to the side. Okay, I'll kind of squish it down. And then I'll make the top of his hat. So I'm going to use some red, like a Santa hat. I'll roll it into a ball. And I got some white in there on accident. It's okay, I'll hide it. Let's do one side flat. And we're going to make it into a triangle. So we'll pinch one side and press with this side to make it flat. You can reshape and reshape till you get the size you want and shape. Okay, so I'll stick on my triangle. So this hat will stick up quite a bit. If you want your hat to kind of stick to the side, you can just bend the tip over to the side. So it goes off there. And I will make my little fuzzy ball at the end of his hat. So just take some white, roll it up, and gently press it to the end of his hat. And there is our Christmas penguin. For our last section of the video, let's make a little Rudolph. So what we'll need for this one is brown, black and white, and red for his scarf and his nose. First of all, we're gonna wanna make Rudolph's body and head. So we have some brown here, okay? We don't wanna use too much of this brown because we're gonna need to use it for his antlers and his legs. So I'm gonna make Rudolph pretty small. So his head is actually bigger than his body. This Rudolph is backwards. So we'll get 2 pieces of clay, pretty small, and we'll roll them into a ball. There's 1 and 2. So let's make his head first because it's easier. His head is just a circle. So we'll press into a circle size or shape. Okay, there we have a circle. And his body is sort of an oval. so we can use our fingers to shape an oval. Okay, and I'll line it up right down here. To make his little body. Stick them together, press gently, and we have Rudolph's body. Now we need to go ahead and make all 4 of his legs. So we want to take some pieces off. They're all about the same size if we can. So let's get some brown. Try and get 4 pieces of the same size. There's 4, and what I'm going to do is roll them all into balls. Okay, there are 4 circles, and I want them into leg shapes. So I'll use one finger and gently press it until it becomes a tube shape. Now Rudolph's not going to have too long of legs, so that should do. Now first I'm going to make his front legs. Here's another one. You want to try and make sure they're the same length. Okay, so the legs on the other side of his body, because he's flat, will be on the very bottom of his belly. The legs that are kind of in front are going to be sort of on top of his body. Just like that. And we'll do the same for the back legs. One leg on the bottom, and we'll roll another out. And it will be sort of in front of his body. So there are Rudolph's legs. Let's go ahead and make his little tail. So we just need a little bit of brown. And his tail is just a little bushy tail. So you don't need too much. We'll roll it into a ball. Flatten it by pinching just a little. And we'll pinch one side to make him have a pointy tail into a teardrop shape, and we'll stick it right on his back over here. And it might take some reshaping, so if you want to pinch with your fingers, you kind of want his point of his tail to face up. You can also use some of your tools to do this. So there is his little tail. All right, so our last step for the body is to make his little scarf. So you're going to use some white and some red, and we'll roll them into a ball. There's a red and a white. So this part's pretty fun. Let's roll these out. And you want them to be pretty skinny. If you watch the Christmas tree video, that's how thin we want them, as thin as the string lights. So pretty thin here. Same for the red. Roll it out. Pretty skinny, making sure every part of this is the same width. Okay, and what we're gonna do, this part's pretty fun. We're gonna twist them up like a candy cane. So how we'll do it is we'll put them right next to each other like that. Okay, I wanna make them the same length. So I'll cut this white one, it's a bit too long. And they're kind of stuck together like this. So I'll grab the ends, and what I'm gonna do is twist it around. All I'm doing is spinning my fingers. into a spiral. And you'll get this cool candy cane look for your Rudolph. Don't twist too much because then it will pinch and just break in half. So that's about how much I want it. And his scarf's really big, so I need to cut it off. So I'll cut it right there. And I'll cut it right there. Now I can use my tools and press it in so it kind of tucks under him. And there I have my cute reindeer scarf. I can even press it down, squishing it a little to make it a bit wider if I want. So we're going to need to do some blending here. And blending's fun because you get to make any color you want. So let's take some brown and a little bit of white. Okay, a little bit of white. And we're gonna mix them together. So this takes some time, just squishing and squishing, and you can notice it starts to blend together. This takes a couple of minutes. What we're doing here is we're changing the brown, and adding white, you make things lighter. So we want our brown to look lighter than the current brown we've already used. So it's almost blended, and you can see it's quite a bit lighter than the other brown. You can add more white as you go if you want it to be lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, so I have a good brown that I like. I'm gonna roll it into a ball and squish it. And this is his snout, like his nose. So I'm gonna squish it right on his face right there. I want it to make sure it's really in the center, so I might have to move it around. Okay, there we go. There's his snout. So I'm gonna make his little red nose next because it's super fun. His little red nose is just a little piece of red into a ball. And I'm gonna squish it down, pinch it, and it's gonna go right up here on top of his snout. All right, let's make his little eyes. His eyes will be black. So get 2 pieces of black, really small. Smaller than a piece of rice, really tiny. And we'll roll them into balls. Into 2 little circles. Okay, and we want to make sure these are even apart on his face. And you can squish them down a little with your finger so they get flat. But keep an eye that you're making them the same size. So there are Rudolph's eyeballs. Let's make his ears and antlers next. For his ears, we just want the same color brown we've been using. So 2 pieces, and we'll roll them into a ball. And we want his ears to be little and pointy. So we'll roll it into a ball, pinch it just a little bit, and then we'll pinch one side to make his ears pointy. Okay, so I want his little tiny ears to go kind of on the side of his head. Ear 1, squish the ball, pinch one side, and we'll put his other ear over here. So we don't want his ears right on top of his head because his antlers need to go up here. So we want his ears kind of on the side. So next for his antlers, we're going to do some more blending of clay. So let's take our brown. We want 2 antlers. So let's just take a pretty big piece of brown. Okay, and we'll just use a little bit of black. and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna blend it up. This might take some time. I'm gonna mix it by just moving and squishing. I have my dark brown. You can tell it's a lot darker. I want to start making my antlers now. So the antlers, let's break it into 2 even parts to start. Let's put that one to the side. Let's start with the first antler. So we want 2 parts that are kind of small, and the last part is bigger. So 3 parts here. Oops. Okay, so what we'll do first is we'll roll them into balls, all 3 parts. Into a ball. And we'll then roll them into a tube shape with our 1 finger. Okay, so I have 1, pretty short, 2, and 3. Okay, so our first part of our antler will stick straight out of Rudolph's head. So we'll stick it right on. Okay, and these little parts will kind of come off the main antler, or the main section of the antler. So I'm just making this a little bit skinnier, and I do want to make it short. So I'll make this part come off the main antler. So that's still really long. I want this part really short, so I can use my tool to cut it. And there I have 1 part of his antler. I'll take another piece. I'm just going to use this piece that I already cut because it's nice and small, and I'll put it on a different part of his antler, down here maybe. You can use your tools to make it stick a bit better. And there's 1 of his antlers. Now I'll do the same for the other side. Stick 1 piece there. Remember, you want the little parts that come off pretty small. So I'll make 1 side over here. This can kind of be up to you. It doesn't have to be any sort of perfect shape. There's no perfect antler shape. And I'll make 1 over here on this side. Might need to use your tool if you can't stick your fingers in there. And there is my goofy looking Rudolph.